see if you can.
Yeah.
I knew it was. I figured it would be. That's why I had to let Rick know.
It used to be. Used to have it on that monitor outside. So you get the song in the list,
Okay, roll call.
Glenn Caldwell,
Present.
Kim Crupper,
Yes.
Ed Gabbard,
Here.
Bob Perry,
Here.
Charles Ed Wilson,
Here.
Stanley Woodyard.
Present.
I'll call this meeting to order and welcome to everyone. Can you hear me in the back okay? Back room? All right, very good. I hope if you've got a copy of the agenda, if not, there were some outside, right outside there. We'll go through it. We think it's a fairly short, looks like a lot before we get to the presentation from the Love's Travel Center. But we'll go through this. I don't think it's going to take a long time, and then we'll spend all the time we need on the presentation. Appreciate everybody coming tonight. Announcements. Fall cleanup weeks are October 22nd to the 26th. That's for trash, garbage, and bulky items. And then on October 29th through the 2nd, we pick up appliances. Trick or treat for all of the county is Wednesday, October 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. Jeff Shipp is not here yet. He was caught in traffic. He has bypassed the traffic, but he said he'd be 5-10 minutes late. So he normally reads the ordinances. I'll read the ordinances and give the summary, and then we will look for a motion to accept it. Item 4 is second reading of ordinance 2012-14. That's repealing of ordinance 2011-30 and 2011-31. It's an ordinance of the City of Williamstown, Kentucky, repealing the ordinance 2011-30 and 31. The specific reason was because there was a mistake in the call that was caught, and so we had to rescind this ordinance. And there'll be an item after the item 5 will be where we have the second reading of the corrected ordinance. Motion would be in order to accept second reading of ordinance 2012-14, repealing the ordinance.
So moved, Mayor.
Motion by Bob, second.
I'll second.
Second by Stanley. Discussion. Roll call.
Glenn Caldwell,
Yes.
Kim Crupper,
Yes.
Ed Gabbard,
Yes.
Bob Perry,
Yes.
Charles Ed Wilson,
Yes.
Stanley Woodyard.
Yes.
Item 5 is second reading of ordinance 2012-15. That's the annexation that I just mentioned of the 121.05 acres of the Kinman heirs and the 10.0776 acres of the Clark and Sonia Kinman property, located on Conrad Lane in Williamstown, and the city is annexing that property into the city.
Motion.
Motion by Glenn,
Second.
second by Ed. Discussion. Roll call.
Glenn Caldwell,
Yes.
Kim Crupper,
Yes.
Ed Gabbard,
Yes.
Bob Perry,
Yes.
Charles Ed Wilson,
Yes.
Stanley Woodyard.
Yes.
Item 6, second reading of ordinance 2012-16, amendment to the sewer use ordinance regarding sewer vault cleaner charges. An ordinance of the City of Williamstown, Kentucky, amending ordinance 2011-26 as previously amended and establishing user charges by the City of Williamstown to provide funds needed to pay for operations, maintenance, and replacement and debt service expenses associated with the City of Williamstown's wastewater works. If you'll look on page 5, we've corrected one mistake where it says all over. That should have been the first 1,000, and the second one would be item D, where the septic vault cleaner shall pay a fee of $80 for each load, maximum load of 1,000 gallons, and only waste from inside Greene County will be accepted. Those are the changes to that. That is a raise of $30 from 50 to 80. Questions? Motion to accept ordinance 2012-16.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Stanley, second by Kim. Discussion? Roll call.
Glenn Caldwell.
Yes.
Kim Crupper.
Yes.
Ed Gabbert.
Yes.
Bob Perry.
Yes.
Charles Ed Wilson.
Yes.
Stanley Woodard.
Yes.
Item 7, second reading of ordinance 2012-17, amendment to the water ordinance regarding truck loading station charges. An ordinance of the City of Williamstown, Kentucky, amending ordinance 2011-24 as previously amended in various provisions of section 52.08 of the City of Williamstown Code of Ordinance and further regulating the manner of sale, the price of water sold, and to be sold by the City of Williamstown. It's on page 3. Presently, it's 71 cents. We're reducing that to 67 cents, but it will be for each 100 gallons of water withdrawn, as opposed to 125 before. And I was asked, and that will take effect November 1st would be the date that we would put that rate into effect.
Motion.
Motion by Glenn,
Second.
second by Bob. Discussion. Roll call.
Glenn Caldwell.
Yes.
Kim Crupper.
Yes.
Ed Gabbert.
Yes.
Bob Perry.
Yes.
Charles Ed Wilson.
Yes.
Stanley Woodard.
Yes.
Item 8, motion to bring off table resolution 2012-05. That was authorization for mayor to execute any and all paperwork associated with the filing of the loan application with the Kentucky Infrastructure for the new water treatment plant. I found the answer, so, I talked to Jeff and I talked to KIA, and the concerns we had we can address. So I think I need a motion to bring that off the table.
So moved, Mayor.
Motion by Bob,
Second.
second by Ed. Discussion. Roll call.
Glenn Caldwell.
Yes.
Kim Crupper.
Yes.
Ed Gabbert.
Yes.
Bob Perry.
Yes.
Charles Ed Wilson.
Yes.
Stanley Woodard.
Yes.
Okay. Now we have, I'll read the resolution, and then I'll discuss that with you on the findings that we found, okay? Resolution 2012-05, authorizing resolution of the City of Williamstown for filing of loan application for new water treatment plant and appointing appropriate local government officials and successors entitled as Officer Project Representative of the Federally Assisted Drinking Water Revolving Fund, the State Revolving Loan Program Project. This is where we'll be looking for the KIA loan of $4 million. Bob Sturdivant from HDR talked to KIA, and that does not regulate us or box us in on any other loans or any other grants that we might have. So that would be for the phase 1 that we've talked about at the last meeting. Okay. I addressed exactly what you were wanting, and he feels comfortable that, that will not affect any other funding.
When might we have to pay on this, begin paying on it, Mayor? We had some discussion about that. I was just curious about that.
If we got the first phase started and approved, the draw wouldn't be until well into the project, probably August, September of next year. And that would just be an interest payment. Any other questions? Motion to pass resolution 2012-05.
So moved.
Motion by Eddie. Second.
Second.
Second by Glenn. Discussion. Roll call.
Glenn Caldwell.
Yes.
Kim Crupper.
Yes.
Ed Gabbert.
Yes.
Bob Perry.
Yes.
Charles Ed Wilson.
Yes.
Stanley Woodard.
Yes.
Item 10, City Council consideration approval of de-icing salt bids. In front of you is a memo from Shane Tucker that was not included in your packet. 2 bids received. Low bid was from Morton Salt. Bid was an amount of $61.40 per ton. Would entertain a motion to accept low bid.
Move to accept the bid from Martin.
Okay, motion by Stanley to accept the bid from Morton Salt,
Second.
second by Bob. Discussion?
Where was this, you know where this firm's from, Rick? Morton?
No. I mean, they ship out of Cincinnati. Their billing office is not Cincinnati, but they ship to us from Cincinnati. It's who we bought from last year also. Questions? Roll call.
Glenn Caldwell.
Yes.
Kim Crupper.
Yes.
Ed Gabbard.
Yes.
Bob Perry.
Yes.
Charles Ed Wilson.
Yes.
Stanley Woodard.
Yes.
Jeff, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
We're on item 11, City Council consideration approval to make application to Grant County Planning and Zoning.
Let me read that, Mayor, and summarize it. This is an ordinance of the City of Williamstown, Grant County, Kentucky, amending the text of the official zoning ordinance 80-199 at Sequitur, Article 10, District Regulations, Section 10 of the Highway Commercial Zone. This portion of the ordinance, as I understand it, is adding permitted uses in the highway commercial zones, auto laundry, drive-throughs, and eating and drinking places, furniture stores, governmental offices, health clubs, recreation and entertainment facilities, sporting goods, studios for professional work or teaching of any form of fine arts, photography, drama, or dance, tailor shop, tool rental, vocational or trade schools or other specialized educational facilities. And then conditional uses under Section C, facilities for human medical care, including medical offices, hospitals, clinics, imaging centers, laboratories, and similar ancillary healthcare services. This is an amendment that primarily needs to deal with some of the medical office spaces we have in the highway commercial zone in order to bring them back into conformance with the zoning ordinance as we have presently. This is a first part of the highway commercial zone, which we'll take up in the next item, but this is a proposal from the city to go up on these issues to the Joint Planning Commission.
Laura, do you have anything to add to that?
Currently, within the permitted uses, we do allow as a permitted use professional offices, but they do exclude medical offices. What we're trying to do within this ordinance is, under the conditional uses, adding those medical type facilities in regards to the 2011 master plan that the city did approve last year, wanting to make parts of Barnes Road the medical corridor. This would help facilitate that in the highway commercial zone, allowing these type of medical uses within that highway commercial zone.
Questions?
Always come back and take it out.
Just, Jeff, this could be passed in tonight. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
it would require a motion, second, and affirmative vote for this council to send it to the Grant County Planning and Zoning Commission for review and recommendation back to this body for a first reading of the ordinance.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Glenn. Second?
I'll second it.
Second by Stanley. Now discussion. Roll call.
Glenn Caldwell.
Yes.
Kim Crupper.
Yes.
Ed Gabbard.
Yes.
Bob Perry.
Yes.
Charles Ed Wilson.
Yes.
Stanley Woodard.
Yes.
Brings us to item 12. appreciate you all coming tonight. We'll do set maybe a few ground rules on what we would like to see done tonight and how we proceed. Jeff, can you discuss and tell us, there has been some questions about limiting it to residents of Williamstown for discussion.
We've reviewed this. It is a public meeting of a governmental body of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Based upon that, there is no limitation on individuals that wish to speak, may speak. As an overall aside, the legislative body and the mayor can limit people to a certain amount of time to speak, but that would be applicable to everyone, not just residents or property owners of the city of Williamstown, but anyone caring or wishing to speak on this issue, either for or against. I also want to point out to everyone that this is not a zone change. It's not a vote, a reading of a text amendment ordinance to our zoning ordinance in any shape, form, or fashion. It's simply a request to go to the Joint Planning Commission to review a proposed text amendment under KRS 100.211, to review a text amendment to the highway commercial zone to allow a conditional use that would encompass a proposed travel center or truck stop. This is a pure legislative function. If this body determines to go to the Planning Commission with this request, they will review it. Evidence will be presented both favorable, in favor of it, or against this text amendment. After that, their recommendation will come back to this body. At that point in time, if they say recommend that the text amendment take place, an ordinance will be put into place. There will be a first reading and a second reading. If this legislative body, and at that point in time, it takes the legislative body, the council, to vote by a majority of the entire legislative body for this to become part of our zoning ordinance. If they turn it down, or if it fails for lack of a second, that's the end of the discussion. This is not a zoning ordinance. This is a text amendment. So, and by all means, I've heard all these issues back and forth here. This is not a discussion of a truck stop per se. This is a discussion to let our Planning Commission review this request, pure and simple. Everything after that is secondary to just asking them to review it. And if the city council says review it, they're not saying either they're for or against this. They're asking our Planning Commission, which is what was established under KRS 100, it's made up of your 4 cities and your fiscal court, the unincorporated areas, to review this matter. That's what's happening here tonight. Anything else other than that, you've been poorly informed. So, that said, anyone who wants to speak on this issue, either residents of Williamstown or non-residents of Williamstown, it's a public forum. We can't limit debate.
Question, Jeff, can we ask them to state whether they live inside the city limits?
Certainly. Yeah, you can ask where they're from. I mean, that's perfectly acceptable, but we can't limit debate.
Laura, will you explain what conditional use is?
Sure. Williamstown is composed of numerous different type of zones, anywhere from residential type zones to commercial type zones. Within each of these zones, you have certain regulations for certain rules of the zoning. For instance, it's this highway commercial text that's before us this evening. We have what is called permitted uses. These are the uses that are normal and customary type businesses or uses that are within that certain zone. Some examples of a permitted use within the highway commercial zone might be restaurants, supermarkets, that sort of thing. That is one type of use. It's very simple to understand and kind of easy to go by as far as the zoning office. The other type of uses that we are considering tonight for the travel center is a conditional use. A conditional use is a little bit different than the permitted use. It is something that needs to go in front of the Williamstown Board of Adjustment. It is something that the legislative body determines could be adaptable for that particular type of zone. But further review would need to be made with certain specifications. The applicant would go in front of the Board of Adjustment with what they're wanting to do, the square footage of the building, a business plan, hours of operation, and all kinds of information to give that Board of Adjustment a really good feel for what that business is all about and if it would fit within that area of the zoning district. So that's the difference between a permitted use and a conditional use.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 12, Love's Travel Center presentation and traffic study presentation.
Thank you all for coming out. I would like to first thank the mayor and the council for allowing us to come back out, discuss our plans. My name is Adam Cheney. I'm working with Dr. Poor and his family on the development of their Barnes Road property. I've also worked in the past with Love's. We developed the Interstate 71 Love's at exit 55 in Gallatin County as well. So unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, but we have for you all, just in case, bound copies. So I'm going to ask you all to
Now.
you can try it now. You know what? Let's not. Unless you all would prefer that. That's up to you all. But at this point in time, I think we're in good shape. I'm going to hand out cards. If you want to just pass them down the line whenever you need to. And I apologize for the public, but for not being able to see most of this. As you can tell by our plan, our site plan has okay, it's up. So,
Doug, watch your head in the back. People over on the other side aren't going to be able to see them.
I was going to say, is that going to be a disadvantage to the folks that are sitting in the back room?
they have a television. I don't know if that
Okay,
makes a
good.
difference.
Chuck, you're not allowed to turn.
We're okay, I think. Are we ready? Sorry
You
about
want it
that.
up or down?
Everybody all right?
Yeah, they.
Okay. As you can tell from our plan, we have not made any physical changes to the plan itself. We have not made any changes to the users that we presented the first time. But what is different about this presentation than the last is the information that we're going to provide to you guys tonight. And the main reason is when we left the last time, we didn't feel like we did a very good job, to be honest with you, explaining the benefits to the city from an economic standpoint. And we also didn't feel like we did a service to the community by addressing their concerns, okay? So we're going to spend a lot of time tonight talking about mainly the economic benefits to the city and then address some of the concerns that, that the residents brought up last time we met. I won't be the only one speaking tonight, and I want to introduce a couple other people who will be talking with me. Dr. Poor's daughter, Christy Nelson, is here. She'll be speaking some of the time. Dr. Poor's son, Douglas, is here. If you remember Rick Sheffield from Love's, he's here with us too. And I know there's a couple other people in the audience who probably are going to speak on our behalf. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. And the first part of this is the information that we've already talked about twice in front of this body. So I'm really going to try to skim through this. However, you have the information in front of you. If you're reading along and I pass over something that interests you, just let me know. As I mentioned, the site plan has not changed. Our 3 outlots are going to be on the southbound ramp as you come off of Interstate 75. Love's will be the anchor site. And those uses will be hotel, restaurant, other retail, or any other designated use within the highway commercial zone. You know, the other thing that we felt that we didn't do a very good job at last time was mentioning what a great asset that we're working with in Love's. Love's is a great corporate citizen in every area that they, and I can't see my screen, so I'm going to have to refer to my notes here. And just to give you some stats. Their home city of Oklahoma City donates 2% of all their net profits to local charities. Okay? They do this in every area that they operate. Annually, Love's and its customers raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. And I don't know if anyone is friends with Love's on Facebook, but I am, and that's all they talk about. They do a great job with the Children's Medical Networks. More than $6 million has been raised over 14 years, benefiting 89 member hospitals nationwide. So when we talk about Love's, we're very fortunate to be dealing with an asset to all the communities that they operate in. A little bit more about them. There are 290 plus locations located in 39 states nationwide. They're $17 billion in annual revenues. They have approximately 10,000 employees. The last time I was here, they were ranked 18th on the Forbes list. They've since jumped 11 spots to number 7 on the Forbes list of largest privately owned companies. As you know, they have facilities large enough to handle trucks, RVs, and buses, but primarily cater to car traffic on a ratio of 6-to-1, which I'm not sure, I know I've pointed this out every time, but that's an important fact. The ratios of cars to truck is 6-to-1. This will include 2 national food concepts, the Hardee's and a Subway. When we spoke last time, we spent a lot of time before we came in originally listening to the charrettes and the public forums about where the citizens of Williamstown wanted to take the city. And a lot of this information that we put together was based on those meetings. What we heard in those meetings, we came out with and tried to adapt to our plan, which we feel fits nicely. So the benefits of our plan, it does, in our humble opinion, supports the goals of the new comprehensive plan. It creates an immediate economic impact to the city in uncertain times. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about that here shortly. And it also lends better use of the physical limitations of the land. Again, in a nutshell, coming out of the meetings with the public residents, I think the number one issue was jobs. Number one, what I heard the most at my table, at my round table, and what was brought up in the summary was the job issue. That was number one. Tied with number one would probably be the ARC and the opportunities it presents and also the risk it presents to your community. But as they looked out into the future, and anyone in the room who was there understands this, what they were focusing on was Williamstown becoming a tourist destination, with Williamstown Lake being a natural resource, of course the ARC, the downtown revitalization. The goal was to bring people into Williamstown as a tourist destination. They also mentioned the green space and pocket parks. They were also, as a collective group, very realistic about the fact that you have to balance these things with the economic realities of your city. Okay, so it's a cost-benefit kind of approach. So those are the things that we talked about last time that are important to reiterate. Just briefly, the ARC does expect to have 1.6 million tourists a year. The goal to develop Williamstown into a destination and to revitalize your downtown so tourists can visit. We're going to need a lot of space for those boats to come to the lake. You're going to have bus tours from churches all over the country who are going to be visiting the ARC, okay? And you're going to have RVs for people who want to spend adventure tourism dollars in their city. We feel that the amenities that Love's provides, the way that they can handle this kind of traffic is best suited for this location. So once again, to summarize that, it's just a state-of-the-art, clean and friendly travel center to serve the traveling public and accommodate the various vehicular needs that I just mentioned. Will play an important role in achieving the goals if what was brought out in those meetings is what the city wants. So, and if not, that's a totally different, that's fine too. Education, sorry, education. Really, the bottom line on education is that Loves is going to, and Halfway Commons Development, I keep saying Loves, but it's also our outlots and our users on those outlots, are going to help the school system immediately without an increase in cost. Residential development, which I do a lot of, you know, there's always an argument between whether it's really a benefit because you have more students, more infrastructure. In this case, it's a dense development, a lot of investment with zero expense to your school system. So education will win big in this equation. You know, just based on the location of Dr. Poor and his family's property, if you're going to have a travel center in Williamstown, there isn't a better location. This is segregated by downtown, by the areas designated during the meetings as green space, trailways, recreational areas by the interstate. It's perfectly suited for this type of use. Okay, and that was pretty much the presentation that I gave last time. I don't think we touched on anything new, but I did want to reiterate that. Next is the detail on the economic change to this community if this project were to come to fruition. The highest value from a new business coming into a local community comes from exports from outside sources, which means local products and services being sold to outside the community, so new dollars flow into your community, okay? Your dollars amongst each other don't help you much. Outside dollars flooding into the community helps a lot, okay? What Halfway Commons does is attracts the majority of its dollars from the interstate traffic, which means a huge amount of money outside investment, okay? What does that mean? Well, that means that all the workers at the restaurants, at the hotel, at the Loves, the managers now have new dollars that weren't in your community prior to. They can go out now, if they weren't able to in the past, now that they have a second income or an income, to be honest with you, they can go out and buy that new car from Piles. They can eat a Friday night dinner at Eduardo's. They can go downtown on a weekend and spend their money at those shops. Okay? And what that's called is a ripple effect throughout the community. Again, the new dollars that are brought in from that highway are injected in the community. So business owners, this would be a boon. Even if you don't like the idea of a truck stop, it would benefit your bottom line. This, again, is a ripple effect. In economic terms, economists call this a multiplier effect. Okay? It's a multiplying effect of new investment into your community. And just so you know, I'm not pulling these numbers out of the air, thin air. The U.S. Commerce Department actually publishes a multiplier, which estimates an effect of outside investment in the community. And I apologize because you all aren't going to be able to see it up here, but it's important at the council because this is for you guys, all right? The first column is the value of the sales from each of our users, okay? The second is the percentage of exports, which would be the new dollars that would come into your community. You are left with an annual change, which for the public is $7.7 million, okay? When you look at the U.S. Commerce Department multiplier, you multiply that by 2.045, which is that ripple effect, where we're spending money in the community, and the total annual change equates to $15.6 million injection of new money into this community from this project, okay? There's something that isn't in this slide, but it is in your appendix that I'll add to that, which is the construction. This is a raw piece of property. So the development dollars, every building that gets built, those are all construction dollars that are going to be coming in. They're one-time dollars, but it is an effect in your community. That construction will lead to additional spending and additional jobs to the tune of our estimates, $10 million in one-time construction spending and another 157 additional jobs in this community. Okay? The same calculations we use for the additional spending, we use to project job creation. And the use of common sense, or the same analogy that I used for the money. When you buy a new car at Piles, his business grows, he needs to hire a new salesman. That salesman goes to Eduardo's for lunch 3 times a week. Eduardo's needs to hire a new cook. So it's not just the money effect, it's the job effect, okay? And that's why you hear the national debate is jobs, jobs, jobs. It's not because people need jobs, because jobs create jobs, and spending creates spending, okay? So it's important. It's very important as a community. That goes back to the balance between what you want to have as a community and how you're going to pay for it as a community, okay? And anybody has any questions or think I'm going too fast, too slow, or just let me know. I can advance the slide, I'm sorry. This was a job slide, and if you all have, everybody had a copy, correct, up there? Okay, from the city council's perspective, when you look at the economic benefits and the multiplier approach, it only makes, again, common sense that your tax revenues are going to increase at the same time. Our model shows same formulas, and these are based, again, on economic theory. Our value of exports are in the first column. Your multiplier on your tax benefits are 2 to 1. Your value of your change is the value change in property. And then your tax rate, your Williamstown tax rate per $100. So your additional taxes will go up $183,000 annually. Now that's every year. That's not a one-time effect. Okay, you're going to have that money in your coffers every year, simply from the fact that Halfway Commons, again, is attracting outside investment on an annual basis. Okay? Now this doesn't even account for what I'll call the seed of development. We honestly feel that this is going to plant the seed because we've talked to numerous businesses that all say the same thing. You know, when you get something on the exit, come talk to us, okay? We're going to plant the seed. So we're talking about numbers just on our project. But if this is a seed project that plants a seed to allow, Barnes Road to develop down that corridor, you just multiply that by the amount of new businesses that come in.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Williamstown rate per 100.
Yes.
The .01191. Where did you get that?
I got that directly from the PBA's office. That's .031 plus .0891. So I can. What are you having a different calculation? At .3.
Yeah. And then what did you say? The .8 was.
That was the education, the school tax.
Okay. All right.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
So you're saying it's 3 times that amount?
No,
Even
it's
better.
the right. That's right.
Okay. Okay.
0.3 plus 0.8 would be 11.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the number. I got that directly from the
so
PBA's
that's school
office.
and city tax.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, that was the only one we used because I don't believe you have a payroll tax. I don't believe you have a gross revenue tax. I don't believe you have anything other than a premium insurance tax, correct? Which, again, I didn't put it in this calculation, but we'll add some dollars to the bottom line. New business, obviously, will have to be insured, and maybe Rick can tell you how much the insurance policies are. But if you're getting bored, I'm almost done. Okay, the bottom line, summary of estimated economic impact. $15 million annually in the local economy, $10 million one-time construction benefit, 347 jobs created annually and sustained annually, and 157 more one-time construction jobs. Approximately 185,000 increased tax revenues, which is actually, if your tax revenue now is 636,000, represents a 30% increase annually. That's on an annual basis. So.
But now that wouldn't be right because our taxes are 636,000. That's how much we get as the city.
Okay.
That doesn't take into effect what the count or what the
high school, the independent school
Okay.
system gets. So.
That's a fair
Okay.
statement. I agree with that. I took that out of your article in the paper, and I couldn't parse that, so I took it at face value. So that was a question that I had myself. So the bottom line, 25 million local economy, over 500 jobs created when fully implemented, increasing the city's tax base of 185,000. What does this do? It gives local workers better opportunities closer to home, which I heard a lot of that as well as we sat around the table. You know, people wanted to not have to drive so far to have a job. You know, as we talked about, if you're a business owner, you know, give a much-needed shot in the arm to struggling local business owners. Give a much-needed shot in the arm to business owners who are very successful. This is only going to help your business. And then relieve the pressure on the city budget that continues to see revenues decline while expenses increase. And that's the summary of the economic impact. Does anybody have any questions about that before? Yes.
Back on your projected job creation,
Yes.
you got projected 347. Is that just for the truck stop, the 2 restaurants, and the hotel?
Yeah.
Well, I noticed you got down for a hotel 99. I spent this morning talking to the 2 largest hotels in Dry Ridge. I talked to the owner of one. They have 9 full-time employees. The other one has 14. How did you come up with 99?
It was based on the U.S. Department of Commerce's model. It had nothing to do with how many they told us they would have. The 347 is based on the multiplier effect, based on the revenues that are generated, which I'm confident are correct. Then you extrapolate, because the 347 includes Eduardo's 2 employees. It includes Pyle's salesman. So it's not just the hotel 9, because that's what I presented last time was they're going to have 40 employees. They're going to have this. This is why we wanted to say that's you can't look at it the way you're thinking about it. It's the benefit as you roll this out to the community. So I know where you're going with it, but it's very difficult to look at the base and say, well, it's not worth it, because you got to look at the whole. You got to look at the whole community. You can't say they're only going to create 9 jobs. No, they're going to create 2 in Eduardo's. They're going to create 1 over here, 1 over here.
I specifically asked you about the hotel, not about the restaurants.
Okay, I'm sorry if I cut you off. What was the question again?
You got 99 for hotel, and I asked you, was that for the hotel that would be projected for Love's, that beside Love's truck stop?
Let me get to
What I
the
was
slide.
told this morning was one of the biggest motels down there has a total of 9 employees. Another one has, I think it was 17 employees. So the question I was asked, what was that 99 for the hotel at your Love Truck Stop, and how did you come up with 99? I know you gave some reason for that. That's what I'm asking.
Yes, and I'll bring that back up. I'll explain that. Again, what this does is takes the U.S. Commerce Department jobs multiplier and says if the hotel was the only business that came to this site, it would generate revenue of $2 million, okay? 95% of the hotel would be exports, which we talked about before. The majority, I would gather to guess it would probably be higher than 95, unless you had a flood in your home and you had to spend the night out there. We're talking about dollars outside the local community, right?
I understand all that. I was just questioning the number of workers
No, I'm getting to
at a
that. I want to answer
hotel
your
there
question
on
directly.
site.
Yeah, no. How many would they have on site? If your guy tells you 10, they might have 10, okay? So, again, these are, let me explain it this way. You ever watch the Super Bowl or you watch the Olympics? No? See some head shaking there. Inevitably during that broadcast, they're going to say, you know, London has really benefited from the Olympics. They have $500 million in economic benefit and has done this and this and this. And you think to yourself, well, I wonder how they figure that. This is exactly the models they use. This is the models they use when you hear, you know, that the Superdome in Louisiana brought in $300 million, okay? This is how they figure it, all right? So what I really didn't want to do again this time was to be simplistic with how many employees are they going to have, because it doesn't tell nearly the entire story about what this can do for your community. It just doesn't. And I'm sorry, I hope I answered your question correctly, or I think.
I would suppose.
Okay.
I don't think he did, actually.
Okay.
I think he's thinking that one hotel's gonna have 99 employees.
No, not at all.
And he's not saying that.
I understand that now, but I did talk to one of the owners, and he said the number of employees are just not going to be there, and their business will not go up, but that's fine. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
But are you still thinking one hotel's gonna have 99
No,
employees?
no. But that was the question I did
I guess
ask.
where does the 99 come, how do you?
Yeah, exactly, just,
Basically, government figures say they'll be, end up from bleed over.
and that's at full implementation, right?
That's correct.
But this number that is in this box here, just the last point, isn't dramatically over what the estimate is for on-site employees. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it should not be dramatically over. There will be a multiplying effect. But again, if you look at the Commerce Department's multipliers, that'll tell you basically how you come up with those numbers. Okay. Ian, I would say that if we were all voting tonight to say, could we bring $25 million into our economy and create 500 jobs, I think we'd have a unanimous yes, right? However, that's not the whole story, right? We know that there's a cost-benefit analysis that needs to be done between what kind of economic benefit and what kind of jobs can be brought in versus the social cost, which a lot of people are here to speak of, right? I'm going to ask Chrissy to come up, and she's going to address, to the best of our abilities, why, in our opinion, that the cost-benefit analysis is not even close. You know, the 25 million and 500 jobs, when you put them on a scale against some of the perceived social costs, again, there's really no comparison. So with that, I'm going to bring Chrissy up to present it.
Thank you, and I also want to just thank the council for allowing us this opportunity to visit with you again. I didn't have an opportunity to speak with the citizens here last time, but I was in attendance at the meeting. And, you know, I was struck by the fact that the company or the business that I heard all of the concerns raised about wasn't the Loves that I knew. We had done a lot of investigation into what businesses we want to be affiliated with. You know, believe it or not, we also are going to be neighbors to Loves. Our outlots, they're in the future. We have a vested interest in making sure that a good, viable establishment is constructed on that property. One that'll increase traffic flow, will be a good corporate citizen, will not alienate other future businesses. We want to attract hotels, restaurants, other retail outlets. That's in your best interest, and that's in our best interest. So, I listened to the concerns last time, and as I said, it wasn't consistent with what I knew about Loves. But let me tell you, you raised an awful lot of good questions, and you raised a lot of legitimate concerns about crime, about pollution, about noise, toxic waste, and pollution. You really raised some things that I hadn't even thought about. What I was really happy about is that someone from Loves, Rick Sheffield, was here to respond to a lot of those things. And I thought he did a great job of that. Those are things I'm concerned about in my neighborhood too. And as an adjacent property owner to Loves, you're darn sure I'm concerned about them. All of those things. So what do? The only analysis that we can do as property owners and neighbors to Loves is start with the facts. Separate the fears from the facts. What do we know about Loves? What we know is that Loves operates 8 business locations throughout the Commonwealth today. We know Loves is number 8 in the Fortune private companies. I am in business, and I can tell you every day we talk about our business reputation because it's all you have. How you treat your clients, your customers, how you treat the people you partner with and do business with. What your reputation is everything about your business. Good businesses, viable, long-standing, family-owned, 40-year businesses, they don't keep ascending higher and higher and higher as the biggest companies in America if they're run poorly, if they don't run their business right, if they attract crime, they're riddled with prostitutes, or they are a haven for criminal activity. It just doesn't happen. Those kinds of companies go out of business, folks. So what we know is that they have 8 locations in our Commonwealth. And if you look, it's not just 8 locations on little podunk country roads. They might as well be the welcome center to the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We could just close those down and save taxpayer money because they are located at every major thoroughfare in our state. And I thought to myself, my heavens, wouldn't the governor or the legislatures or somebody, wouldn't the citizens of our state rise up and turn our backs on Loves? Why would we continue to allow them to be the first impression that people have when they enter our great state? The answer is they're a good corporate citizen. But you know, we also, just like you wanted to know a lot about Loves, we didn't want to ask the question, though, to people who might have a predisposition or have a bias. Rick Sheffield's going to stand up here and tell you what a great company he works for. Would you be surprised if he said anything else? Not me. So, you know, after we sat through the meeting last time, I said, you know, maybe we were wrong. Maybe we didn't do our homework. Maybe the citizens were smarter than we are, and maybe we didn't dig into this enough. And I thank you for that. Because, you know what, asking questions and having vigorous debate is what always advances issues to the better decision. What we did is we went out to the elected officials in each of those 8 locations. And we asked this a very, very, very neutral question. Because we knew that whatever we asked, you guys could go ask. If you opposed this project, you would have the chance to go ask them yourself what they think about Loves in their community. So we said, we don't want to bias them. We're going to actually do this in writing so we can get something from them and we can share what these elected officials had to say, positive or negative. This is the candid feedback, verbatim comments that we got from elected officials. And it's hard for you to see the titles at the bottom, so I will go ahead and just read those for you. Lynn Jones is the mayor of Calvert City here in Kentucky. And this is what he said, among other things. You'll find the facility to be clean and inviting to travelers. I found Love's management to be proactive and most supportive and responsive. Love's presence in Calvert City is a win-win. I could read every word on these pages, but I don't want to keep you here all night. The next person that we spoke with was Judge Rothenberger at Shelby County. They have a location there in Waddy. And he said Love's worked very closely with our Planning and Zoning Commission to find the appropriate fit for both parties involved while keeping the public's wishes in mind. And I think what you heard at the last meeting, and you'll hear again tonight, is that Love's is ready, willing, and able to work collaboratively with this community to make sure that it's a development we can all be proud of. And that's what Judge Rothenberger said. The mayor of Horse Cave shared with us that Love's has been a good corporate citizen to our town and county. I would recommend Love's to anyone that asks me about what they have to offer. And we didn't just ask for their comments, we're sharing their phone numbers up here. Because you know what, you can call them and check it out just like we did. Down in Grayson, you know, over to the east of us, they said Love's has contributed positively to Grayson, Kentucky. Please feel free to give him a call over there at the mayor's office and talk about it. In Gallatin County, Ken McFarland, Judge Executive, said Love's has been an asset to our county. One could make the argument it takes from our small business owners, but business brings business. And isn't that what Adam just told you? As has been the case in Gallatin County. They keep a well-maintained establishment. Mayor McBurney in Corbin said, "Please consider this email as my recommendation for Love's. It is an asset to our area. It is very clean and successful business." Those are the comments that we got from the folks that we asked. Who is Love's? What are they all about? How are they going to be as a neighbor? You know, you've got the neighbors that you don't, you know, you wish would move, that you don't really want right next door to you. Well, what these elected officials told us is that they would take more of Love's if they could get them, and they highly recommend them to this community. So as I looked at all of the information and I reflected on the comments that were shared, the only thing I could come away with is that the facts don't support the unsubstantiated fears. You know, this ad.
Is one of these businesses within a residential neighborhood?
I'm sorry, this location is a highway commercial zone, ma'am? Yeah.
Are any major locations in Kentucky you're talking about next to homeowners?
I haven't toured all of them, so I can't answer that question, to be quite honest. I know that in Waddy, there's obviously adjacent properties right near there. It's more of a residential community. I haven't visited all of them. I have stopped at the one in Gallatin County and the one down near Corbin. What I do know, though, is that the property right along Barnes Road and Interstate 75 is highway commercial, where we're attempting to locate this, not in the midst of a residential property. But I do know, and I recall your face, you happen to be the adjacent property owner, and just as you, we are concerned about what Love's is going to be doing. We're going to be on the other side trying to sell that property. And I think Rick said he will work with you, whether it's a berm or trees, or we'll collaborate. We're not going to just start putting a shovel in the ground and digging without conferring with you.
Well, I was just wondering with these people, since they said that, you know, if it's in the middle of a cornfield, that's a different comment that you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. All of these locations are on major thoroughfares, and there's no major thoroughfare that is more major than the interstate that runs from Michigan to South Florida, and takes, you know, all of our traffic down there.